TobyMac has released part 2 to the Ruse Cruise known as Delta Doolittle, and this time it takes place in the internet, so it's already a 0 out of 10 for me because it's clearly just ripping off Battle Network, which should have a collection on consoles by now. It is also a 0 out of 10 because you cannot command Furby to put his hat back on. Sure, D2 has been out for a while and it's not a 0 out of 10, but these games are always pretty relevant to talk about. It was kind of nice too that Chapter 1 got some quality of life stuff and it all got thrown together in a showcase to see how many years it'll take to complete the whole game. I wound up watching my first Salt on the chapter again after I 100% called the ending, and man, I don't like my old content. I bitched about text. I bitched about there being a lot of dialogue on a game that prides itself on its dialogue. I couldn't play day 1, so I had to mute my chat and alerts because people love to pride themselves on spoiling shit since they think it makes them special. I wonder if he'll get that route. Shut up. Anyways, I thoroughly enjoyed Chapter 2. I think part of my issue with Chapter 1 is even though I stated otherwise, mentally I was viewing it as a full game when it's really just the tutorial. As always though, the community baffles me. Part of what I loved was Birdly, and I saw so many people bad-mouthing him. We can have characters that do fucked up experiments, genocide things, or are... and that's all redeemable. But apparently being a gamer is too much. We really are oppressed. So yeah, T-Money's second helping of Noodler is basically just a better Chapter 1, at least gameplay-wise. More actions, more branching, more fun. You can recruit Monsties now to add some depth to them and your town, but old Jevel's left out despite having an entry in the code. The graphics look a little more crisp, and there are less awkward sprites like Chris receding into themselves when threatened, but I will say I like Chapter 1's music a lot more. 2 still had some bops, obviously, but they didn't stick in my head as much. The story was also kind of odd, in the sense that it felt empty? It didn't seem like there was much weight to it. I never really felt like I was doing much once I got to the city. The big bad of this chapter spends the majority of the game following you around and joking with you, which is fun, but it doesn't really make him feel like a threat. Maybe it was done to subvert expectations, and maybe it was to try and make ending scenes hit a little harder, but I never really felt like anything was really at stake, other than Birdly's wallet trying to sub to all these gals OnlyFans. Characters felt more fleshed out this time though. There were less lol I am random character and now I am gone moments, and even the randomish encounters could be recruited so you'd see him in town later. Though it seems like Toby only knows how to write one love interest. A sweaty nerd lusting after a tough and fierce monster? Where have I seen that before? Oh right, I saw it in Deltarune because they're in this game too! It really does put a lot of focus on your squad and the Lightners, and despite Queen not feeling like a threat, she was a fantastic character that made me exhale out of my nose a few times. Other than that, it's pretty much more at Chapter 1. But then you disregard most of what I just said when you do my favorite part of this chapter. Snowgrave, Weird, Genocide, whatever you want to call it, I was entranced by this edition. Seeing the community slowly discover it was pretty cool. Back in my Undertale vid, I talked about how I disliked the Genocide route there, and I still do. But this, I like this. Undertale's Genocide route reminds me of this really cringy scene from Free Guy, if you saw that, where it had a bunch of popular streamers being like,
who the hell even knows who this blue shirt guy is? But I'll tell you this, he's got me thinking about NPCs and how I play the game.
Shut up! I can't help but view shit like level of violence and execution points as some, like, I don't know, DeviantArt edgy fanfic stuff. But with Deltarune, it feels fucked up. It's not the game bashing you over the head with Kill Bad Stop or you slowly corrupt one of the air quote innocent characters. Instead of you being bad, you're making one of the NPCs in the game bad. While I was mind-breaking the deer, I was actually a little skeeved out by some of the dialogue. The transition of enemies hunting you down to enemies running away from you has a bigger weight now that they are on the map. It also gives Noelle some more depth, since in the normal route, her only character trait is Hungry for Barney. The actual Snowgrave animation and sound was pretty chilling. And having to repeatedly proceed was just kind of pushing forward how much of a corruptant you are. Sure, a lot is just retreading of the Genocide route with less edge and more mindfuckery. I imagine how I felt with this is how most felt with Genocide, but what really wrote me in was the possibility for future chapters. Doing this route ends with That Ain't Falco getting the cold shoulder, and when you return, is Birdly okay? Birdly is dead! I am very interested to see how much the game could branch from this. Ultimately, the theme is your choices don't matter, so I can see the ending being the same, but I'm curious if in the next chapter they'll just omit Birdly or not. And it shouldn't be too hard since the whole thing will probably take place in the Dark World, but I'm very interested to see how a continued file will go. And obviously, I saved the best for last. Spampton G. Spampton. I love this little shitter, and not just because doing a speed run of beating Jevil and Neo is really fun. I honestly think he's a good character, not just because of the silly nature, actually quite the opposite. What he represents and the scenes that he brings. Another creature being puppeted by another entity, desperately trying to break free from their grasp. In his scenario, it's most likely Gaster, but it draws a good parallel to Chris trying to free themselves from the player's control. He's a well-written, tortured character, and he offers up a lot of mystique too. Having the lost character speak through him and try to shrug it off, only to end with, "But it sounds like they were talking to you." It haunts me. I love it. His backstory that you hear from the other apps is kind of sad and gives a good bit of insight into his actions. It does sadden me though that my boy Jevil got shafted in comparison. Spamton gets to be a secret boss, part of the main story, have a backstory, be another secret boss, and Jevil gets a few lines of dialogue from the shopkeep and a reference from Task Manager. Anyways, time to go 2-0. Ho diggy dang, that ending right? More Chara shenanigans, right? Nope. So like I said, Chris just wants to be free of the player. In select areas, Furby will ask if you want to check on Susie if she splits. Saying yes will show her point of view, and if you do this, the two will be conversing when you meet back up. But if you don't, they awkwardly stand around.
The Furboy's in on it. They need you out of the picture.
Smash cut to the sync section of the ending. What happened there? Well, what happened earlier? Toriel invited Susie to share a pie, meaning less pie for Chris. That won't do at all. So later, player, Chris is heading down to the diner to get a full pie so they don't have to share. But hark! The pie that you were going to share isn't even done. Chris purposely saved room for that shared pie and winds up getting the Midnight Grumblies. They debate heading out to get some, but nah, it's too late. So maybe some TV will take their mind off it. Wait, remind. It reminds Chris that they have a stash of pies stored in the basement. Well, the handy dandy knife will make a quick trip to the, wait, was that the gas line?